The summer is traditionally a slow time in politics. Not this summer, though. The past few months have certainly been a whirlwind of announcements, shifting allegiances. This day last year, BC had three parties with official status: the NDP, the Greens, and BC United. And it was just a few days later, September 13th, 2023, Abbotsford South MLA Bruce Banman left the party, gave the Conservatives official status. Their growing momentum has now pushed BC United out of the race, and we once again start September with three parties in play for power. And their representatives join us now. Adam Olsen is the BC Green Party MLA for Saanich North and the Islands. Hello there, Adam.
Good morning.
Mo Sihota, former BC NDP cabinet minister, currently operates his own lobbying company. Mo, good morning.
Good morning. And I went to the principal's office at the worst possible time during the third period of the 1972 Canada-Russia series. I skipped school the day before to watch the game previously.
Right.
It's been there ever since.
More stories to share. It doesn't surprise me you spent some time in the principal's office, though, Mo. Also with us here in studio, Angelo Isidorou, campaign director for the Conservative Party of B.C. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And Diane Watts, not with us this fall on the panel, reflecting, of course, the suspension of the BC United campaign. Good to have you all here with us. Now, Adam, I want to start with you because we pulled everyone out of summer hiatus just over a week ago to respond to the big news that BC United was out of the race. Here we are, the first official panel of the fall. Very notable absence of Diane. So we've had a week plus, to process this news. We've seen this Ferris wheel of candidates play out. Adam, what are your thoughts on this new political reality as it stands?
Well, I guess what's new is, or it's reminding me of 2017, actually, when we had three political parties on the landscape. And the main difference, of course, was that the BC Liberals had been in government for the previous 16 years. And the polls were talking about a very tight race. And so we have a situation where we're in very similar situation as we were back then. And I think the BC Greens are working towards the space that we've occupied, I think, for the last 7 years and, the last decade, really, in the BC legislature. And that's right in the middle, ensuring that we don't have what we see down in the States, this kind of calcifying extremes on sides. And the BC Greens have quite familiar in the middle of the political debate. And that's where I believe we're going to end up after this election with a strong cohort of Greens making sure that we're a collaborative democratic institution.
It doesn't surprise me that you are sounding optimistic on this front. I mean, but for months, the BC Conservatives and the Greens both had two sitting MLAs, right? You were sitting sort of neck and neck there. You've seen this surge in support for the Conservatives over a relatively short period of time. I mean, just all I want to say is, why do you think the Conservative message is resonating right now, and the Green message doesn't seem to be resonating?
Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. The reality is that for the longest time in this province, we had two political parties. We had a BC Liberal Party and a Social Credit Party and a BC NDP Party. And for the last decade, the BC Greens have been in the middle of this political debate. What we've seen is not really much different than what we've seen in the history of this political province, which is a consolidation of, I guess, so-called political left and right ideologies. And the BC Greens were the only party actually to carve a space out in that two-party system. We're actually the only party that has an elected leader by the membership of our party. Both David Eby and John Rustad were. But you have
to admit, according to numerous polls in the very very recent polls.
But how is it different, Gloria? How is it different than what we have had, which is a right-wing political party, a left-wing political party, and then in 2013 really, but then 2017, the BC Greens earned our space in the BC in the legislature.
Okay,
so
you've earned your space.
How is that different than in the past?
All I'm saying is the terms of the opportunity to capitalize on some movement, I guess, in the landscape right now. And I'm just asking, why do you think your message isn't resonating?
It's not that it's not resonating. It's just that the political right, which was, as they would define themselves, a so-called free enterprise party, that represented both federal Liberals and federal Conservatives had held together a coalition on the political right. That fragmented, which you've outlined in the lead into this discussion, and then it consolidated again. It really is. I think to make it anything more complex than that, I think is well, I just think it's a mistake.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Mo, we did speak to Shachi Curl last week of the Angus Reid Institute, and she recently wrote an op-ed piece exploring how Pierre Poilievre is shaping provincial politics here in BC. We know that former Poilievre spokesperson Anthony Koch is working with the BC Conservative campaign. We also hear similar language, Poilievre catchphrases finding their way into BC Conservative press releases and interviews. I know Rustad has said that those were actually BC Conservative catchphrases that Poilievre has adopted there. But how, I guess, is the NDP prepared to go up against this communications playbook that seems to be working Canada-wide right now?
Well, we have to. And I'm not too sure the playbook is working as well as some would suggest. Just this past week, we've seen a steady stream of people come into our offices across the province that were formerly members of the BC United Party wanting to volunteer for us. And that's been largely because they don't see the Conservatives as a quote unquote free enterprise coalition. They see them as a collection of extreme right wingers, anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists, led by a leader who doesn't believe in the science of climate change and who's promising to cut our healthcare system by $4.1 billion. It's a party that just about every week has to silence a bigot or a racist that's joined its ranks as a candidate or as a member. It's a party that espouses freedom, except when it comes to a women's right to choose. It's a party that's run and financed by a bunch of personal injury lawyers who want to go back to the old system by CBC so they can line their pockets and increase the rates that people pay. It's a party that wants to end the progress that we've made on Indigenous reconciliation and move us back to the days where we pitted British Columbians one against the other. As a consequence of that, we're seeing people come into our offices, and I think we'll see more of this as the weeks unfold. What we're beginning to see is people coming into our office and say, look, I'm here because I want an environment that is better than the ones that we inherited for our children. I want an education system that prepares people for the jobs of tomorrow. I want an economy that's built around innovation, technology, and clean energy, as well as our traditional industries. I want to vote for someone that wants to strengthen our healthcare system and not cut it. And I therefore want to vote for David Eby. And we're seeing this in a very pronounced way. And I think you'll see an increase in that momentum as we go through this campaign.
Oh, we're going to hang out outside your offices, I think, in the next little while talk to some of those people who are coming in to say...
You know what? I would welcome that because I think you really should. I think you'd be surprised as to the number of people that have been associated with the BC United Party. I mean, I was in Surrey yesterday. Even I was taken aback by the number of people that were coming into our offices there.
No, I'm serious when I say I would like to. I would like to speak to some of them. But Angelo's sitting here chomping at the bit now. You're throwing a heck of a lot at him directly and at his party. And Angelo, I mean, so far the BC Conservatives have been, heavy on the criticism, very heavy on the criticism, light on details and solutions and details of solutions. Why have we heard more policy ideas from every other party, including BC United, than from your party, the Conservatives?
So we're not in the writ period yet. BC United released a lot of policy
Neither
early.
are we.
BC United released a lot of policy early because they needed to get in the news. We have policy we're going to be releasing every week of the writ.
You don't need to get on the news?
Well, we're getting on the news already. The reality is we have policy that we're going to release when people are paying attention. We've released our platform on healthcare. We're doing forestry probably next week. We will be releasing fleshed out policy with backgrounders that people can get behind. We've been out there talking about involuntary care, which I know we might talk about today. We've been out there talking about scrapping the carbon tax, about getting patient guarantee wait times, of creating a new model of healthcare. It's very easy to just throw out names and attack Conservatives and call us bigots and racists. The reality is the NDP is scared. The vast majority of the BC United base has consolidated behind us. The momentum this past week has been unbelievable with the amount of new members we've gotten and new volunteers and obviously new candidates. So we're very excited to go into September and October and fight this
So we ought to be outside your campaign offices as well and talk to some of those people that are going in. Angelo, while I've got you, you just mentioned this other story, top of mind, the violent attacks in downtown Vancouver last Wednesday, right outside our studios here by Queen Elizabeth Theatre. One man is dead, another had a severed hand. So the suspect has a history of mental health-related incidents, interactions with police. He was arrested. He was charged. This led to this broader conversation around public safety, mental health support. So, Angelo, following the attacks, we heard from the VPD Police Chief Adam Palmer, and he said police data shows crime is down in the city. He said Vancouver is not dead. Vancouver is not dying. That's all hyperbole. So Chief Palmer was making an obvious reference to a film that you produced called Vancouver is Dying. So what's your response?
I mean, look, a man was killed. Someone got his hand chopped off. I think they saved the hand. People don't feel safe. It's easy to say, look at the data. The reality is people don't feel safe. Something is being missed in the data, and we need to change course. We need to look at involuntary intervention when it comes to these individuals who are either having a psychiatric or psychotic episode or are on drugs, and there's an intersect there. And we need to have a serious look at that in terms of, introducing legislation, improving low secure beds so people can be taken in for longer periods of time who are having a psychiatric episode, building infrastructure, because if we're going to be doing that and frankly, we should be doing that. We also need to build the infrastructure to house people and provide them the treatment they need.
Well, sure. But, I mean, it's common criticism of BC United, or BC Conservative, rather, BC Conservative, the line on public safety here, that the party tends to take individual tragedies, whether it's the attack last week, maybe it's the murder of Tory Dunn, and politicize them rather than looking at numbers.
But, politicizing it, these are people's lives. People are dying, and then you have an NDP government, frankly, that I feel is gaslighting people. Tory Dunn, that was a random attack. The random element of these attacks really bother people because, we've always had crime in the city. We've always had some element of crime. It's not new. But the element of these random attacks bother British Columbians. They want to see change. So we could say, you put a piece of paper in front of someone and say, oh, crime is down. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't seem like it. Are the numbers accurate? It doesn't seem like it.
Okay. I want to bring the others in because I'm conscious of time here. Mo, the Premier, the Premier hinted at a plan for more assertive care after the attack last week when he talked to reporters about that. When we say assertive care, what's your interpretation of that?
Before I answer that, let me quickly say, it's interesting how Angelo will sort of read down data when it questions his hyperbole and the fiction that the Conservatives are spreading. It's Trump-like, and that's their strategy. The society, they're trying to generate political support on the basis of anger, hate, and division, not on the basis of hope and opportunity. The fact of the matter is that, first of all, the data shows that crime has dropped in Vancouver, but it's also true, and I will offer this up to Angelo, that people don't feel as secure as they should on our streets. I accept that, and therefore government has to do some other things. Now, to get to your question, among those other things is we have to take a look at this whole question of involuntary care, and as you know, the Premier this week has said, look, there's a place for that in British Columbia. It has to be done, however, with a surgeon's precision, not with a blunt instrument. And so because he's been told by doctors, if you do it the wrong way, people aren't going to call an ambulance. They're just going to die on the streets. Now, other doctors say the exact opposite. So he's gone to a chief scientist, a psychiatrist by the name of Daniel Vigo, who's an expert in this field, to try to develop a framework that balances the legitimate concerns of community safety as well as the need to get people into treatment as quickly as possible. And as a result of that, we're going to have a report from Dr. Vigo next week.
Okay.
And
on that note, we'll watch for that report next week. I'm watching the clock here. Adam Olsen, final word to you. Let's pick up there. Where would you like to see the next steps by government on involuntary care? Can you be quick, please?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize the fact that British Columbians need to really rest on the fact that we have a representative of the BC Conservatives saying, don't worry about the data, just believe the rhetoric. Yeah. And that is a very, 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 very dangerous way to approach these issues that deal with our family members.
Final word on involuntary care, Adam. I'm only going to give you 20 seconds here.
Okay, that's fine. We need to make sure that people are housed. We need to make sure that the type of treatment and care is there when people need it. We have a crisis care system. We don't have a whole mental health care system. And it's easy to go to the involuntary care as the solution, especially when you're not looking at the data. But the reality is that we need to build a whole system of mental health care in this province that includes tools that are already in the Mental Health Act.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Adam, thank you very much, and apologies for having to jump in here. We have a hard start for the national news at the top of the clock. Adam, Mo, Angelo, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Adam Olsen, the BC Green Party MLA for Saanich North. Mo Sihota, former BC NDP Cabinet Minister. Angela Isidorou, Campaign Director for the Conservative Party of B.C.